Welcome to Bite Sized Games, the podcast where we play a game that can be completed in 10 hours or less because we just don't have that much time on our hands these days. So we got to play short games. Today's especially was quite short. It's the game called Darq, D-A-R-Q, which came out a few years ago. And we will jump into that rather shortly. But first, let me introduce who I have with me. My name is Matt, and I'm joined by Dennis and Phil, my two gaming friends. How you guys doing?
Hey, I'm good.
Doing good.
Good to get the crew back together again. Phil, you might want to adjust your camera.
Yeah, I can just see the top of your head.
I have things, I'm hiding things down here.
I lost my train of thought. So here we are again. Thanks for joining. And before we get into our discussion of Darq, I'd like to ask you a quick question. I think this one will be pretty simple. We all kind of grew up in the 90s as, middle school, elementary school, middle school, high school, probably 90s kids for the most part. We grew up in the kind of like the arcade area, where there were still a lot of arcades around. I think a lot of them have probably shut down and, gone the way of the dodo, don't really exist as much as they used to. But just wanted to ask, when you were growing up, did you have a favorite arcade spot, like pizza place or a movie theater or just like a mall or something like that? What was that spot? Did you usually what was your experience there? Just walk us through what it was like there and, paint us a picture, take us back to the 90s. And then also, did you have a favorite arcade game that you liked? So how about Philip?
You said my full name. Wow. The different, the game and the spot are two different places, which is two different things actually. Because it's like I would have a favorite spot, but the favorite game I played at a different place, which wasn't my favorite spot, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
Favorite spot was just Town Center Mall, Georgia. I don't know if I guess it's still open. People still go to malls, like these big shopping malls, and buy stuff. I feel
Malls
like
are still open.
I feel like that's gonna be. It's a matter of time. They're hanging on. I don't know how they stay alive. I guess.
Is the arcade still there though?
No, I'm sure the arcade is gone. I think it was gone before, even 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Right.
15 years ago. I think.
Yeah.
It was gone.
Quite a while ago.
Yeah. And so my favorite game was Tekken Tag. And I remember, we paint a picture because I used to play this at Dave & Buster's. So this was when I was 18, and you had to be an adult to go to Dave & Buster's. I think, yeah.
That's funny.
And that was my night out. Okay, we're going to Dave & Buster's. And we're gonna go.
This
and
is
that's
way older than I was expecting.
That's because that's where the other adults would assemble for some Tekken Tag. There's gonna be some competition. It's like the bowling league or I don't know. You got to find.
So it was pretty serious.
Like a turf war. Yeah, there's other people there, and you're all right. We're gonna see who's the king of who can stay on the stick, so to speak.
That was
if you
when
keep
Dave
winning.
Buster's had actual games.
Yeah, they had the bowling alley part, the dance floor bar area thing, and then
I
they
don't
had
know if you've
games.
been to one recently, but the actual video games are they're arcade versions of mobile games. It's weird. They have Flappy Bird and
right.
Crossy Road, and it's just nothing I would actually want to play.
It's not like a full on. It's not like a Mario Kart machine or something like that.
I think there was a couple of racing cabinets, but it wasn't.
But it's probably missing those classic arcade.
Yeah,
games.
where's the Simpsons? Where's the
Yeah, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that was a cool one, and X-Men. But yeah. So those were maybe my childhood favorites. X-Men, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a lot of time spending that. Simpsons also, Dragon's Lair, Mortal Kombat. But I can definitely remember spending a lot of time playing Tekken and challenging people and the whole if you win you get to stay on, you know what I mean? So someone else comes up and you see how long you can kind of stay up there. And,
nice.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
I've actually never been to a Dave & Buster's, but I've seen their commercials.
I don't really think you're missing out on much.
Well, I went to a barcade once in San Francisco.
Barcade is better than a Dave & Buster's.
Yeah, but it was kind of the same though. The same thing that you were describing, Dennis, because this was more recent. This was only a few years ago, and it was mostly mobile games in arcade form, which is a bit disappointing. But it had some, they had some cool stuff. Like I love air hockey and all that, and they had that shit. All right, cool.
The barcade I've been to was all like 90s, 80s retro arcade cabinets.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay, I wish it had been like that when I went to
it. Was an actual.
Yeah, I thought that was like a thing
barcade.
that's happening. Yeah, like bringing the retro games back into like bars, and that's like the thing that like people our age go to now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the one I went to was packed. It was really packed. But so what you said your favorite spot though as a kid was the mall though? Which was a different spot. Okay.
Yeah, that was a different spot. Yeah.
Mall arcade. Would you just go there and your parents would go shopping or something and you would just go to the arcade or something?
Yeah, I remember like, you go with your parents, well, usually my mom, and then like she'd be just shopping for clothes for seemingly forever. So it's like you had to like measure out the whole day. Like I think I remember getting just like a pittance, you know what I mean? Like maybe $1. I would be like searching through the machines for like spare quarters and stuff. I remember that. Like I had so little. You had to choose your game so wisely. You can't play something where you'll be done in like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it does not go very far.
Got to make those quarters last.
Yeah, you got to stretch it out and that's the thing about playing fighting games good too. Like if you can win, you can keep playing. And I think that's kind of the whole thing about playing fighting games and trying to make that dollar last a long time.
So. I feel you. Okay, how about you, Dennis?
Two that come to mind. One was like a local Chuck E. Cheese type establishment. It was called Fun and Games. Was I don't think it was a chain or anything, but they had like, the same kind of setup where there was they had like skee ball, loads of arcade games. They had a mini golf course, and they had like prizes that you can turn in your tickets for. And
did they have animatronics that would dance?
No
on the
animatronics.
Stage?
Without the animatronics.
Yeah.
But they had food and stuff, like shitty pizza that you could get.
Yeah.
And people would hold their birthday parties there, like kids. I went to many birthday parties there. Those are always the best ones.
Yeah, those are fun.
And then, and I guess the games that stood out to me from that age were the Simpsons game. I remember I played that a lot. There was also a game called Knights of the Round, which was another beat 'em up game. I think we might have played through that on like a Capcom collection.
We did.
Yeah. That was a favorite. And X-Men was probably the major one.
Yeah.
Especially because I think they had the Colossus. They had the 6-person cabinet, I think. So if you had a birthday party, you could get 6 kids on there.
That's a good time.
It was just chaos.
Yeah,
it's great.
A great time.
Did anyone dream of owning an arcade machine back then? That was like I remember that being like my goal in life at that point. Like I gotta get an arcade machine.
I had some goal thoughts about that definitely when I was a kid. Yeah.
But then there's another one I want to shout out, which was that arcade for some reason did not have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the arcade game. I think they got Turtles in Time at one point, but I think maybe when I realized they had it, I already had it at home for Super Nintendo. So but the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the arcade game, there was a cabinet outside of the pizza place where we always used to get takeout pizza. So while we were waiting for the pizza to get cooked and pick it up, I would sit outside and play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Nice.
So that's a memory I have. And then I remember
it was outside, like outdoors.
I was like in one of those. It was like in a little strip mall kind of place, but the cabinet was outside of the pizza place, but it was indoors. So like in like a little walking area.
I see. Okay.
So it was still inside, but it was just outside of the pizza restaurant.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Good time.
I like this going down memory lane here.
How about you?
For me, yeah, I had a few arcade spots. I think the one that I probably went to the most was a local pizza place, which was called Round Table Pizza. That was very good. Great pizza. But they didn't have the big arcade machines like the Simpsons or the X-Men, but they always had NFL Blitz, which I fucking loved.
Oh yeah, I remember
And they also had Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which I played a fuck ton
Oh yeah.
when I
forgot
was a
about
kid.
that.
Yeah, I played that a lot. That was probably one of my favorites. Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I was pretty addicted to that game. So when that came out on Dreamcast, I was super happy. I think that came out on Dreamcast, right? That game. I think it did.
It did, yeah. I had it on
Yeah.
Dreamcast. And
Yeah.
it's about to get a release, I think, with that
it
Capcom
is.
fighting
Yeah.
game collection.
And I think that's and this is jumping into another thing, but the Dreamcast was kind of known as like the console where you get to play arcade games. Like there was
Saturn was also that way too.
Hydro Thunder, Soul Calibur, all those games that were, and like Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, that's true.
All those arcade games like came out on the Dreamcast. But yeah, so that was one spot, and then I had another one that's similar to what you said called Fun and Games, but ours was called Malibu Castle. I don't know why it was called that because we were in California, but it had the same thing. It had like the mini golf courses. It had the food and the shitty food and like the things where you can win tickets to get prizes, and then it had like all the arcade machines that you could just play, and that's where you could find like Dance Dance Revolution, which I definitely got into for a little while when I was a bit older. And then, but also, so that was, but I didn't go there that often. It was kind of far. But I'd say the other main place that I went to was the movie theater arcade. I loved the movie theater arcade. Every time, just go there early before the movie starts and play with your friends. That's where we would have X-Men and The Simpsons. That's where I remember playing X-Men and The Simpsons the most.
I remember playing Cruis'n USA. I think it was Cruis'n USA at my local movie theater. They had a Cruis'n USA cabinet.
Yeah,
I think there was a couple different Cruis'n games. Cruis'n World.
There were Cruis'n Worlds. Yeah,
I don't remember which one it was, but
those are fun. Those are fun racing games. I like those. I can't really pick one favorite game, but I think it kind of changed over time. But like I said, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was one of them. X-Men was definitely one of them. I'd probably just leave it at those two.
Those like arcade beat 'em ups though don't really hold up, like without, because they're designed to eat your quarters,
right?
Like
they kind of worked in that setting,
right?
Like the arcade setting.
Like I remember when I discovered emulators, and I got the meme emulator for arcade cabinets, and going back and playing like all my favorite classic arcade beat 'em ups, and it was just like, you just push like F1 to insert a quarter or something.
Right.
It was just kind of sucked.
Kind of takes the fun out of it. Yeah,
it does, but it also makes you realize like how many freaking quarters you would actually need to complete the game.
Or you just got to get really good.
Oh, I forgot to mention one of my favorites, NARC. Did you guys play that in the arcade?
I don't think so.
Is that the one where you shoot drug dealers or something? Like
that? And some of
I've heard of it.
Some of them throw heroin needles at you.
Yeah. I've heard of that game. But I never saw
each stage introduces a guy on a different drug. Like the first level is just like you're like cocaine dealer. The second level has the heroin guys, and then the third level has like PCP, like Hulk guys.
This is the Dare age, maybe.
Yeah, it was it was like positioned as like an anti-drug, like crack is whack kind of era, like hey,
don't knock it till you try it. Don't knock it till you try it. That's what I say.
You're allowed to run through the streets, machine gunning and rocket launching, exploding drug dealers. But
drug dealers deserve murder. Yeah, they deserve to be murdered.
That's totally fine, but don't do drugs, kids.
Games I've seen. I think maybe it was Angry Video Game Nerd did a video on that, which is how I heard about it. It looked really fun.
Hilarious game. I even ended up getting the NES home version, which
nice.
was really crappy version, but
oh man, I didn't realize it was that popular. That's really funny.
But what I was gonna say was, I remember going back playing that on an emulator, and like even with infinite lives, like the final boss was still, it was just this test of endurance, like constantly adding more quarters or more continues, and it just went forever to the point where I run out of bullets, and I wouldn't.
He's on crack, cocaine, heroin.
Yeah, he's on so many drugs. He just can't.
So it
kill
basically
him.
wasn't even beatable. That's
I
nuts.
guess it is, but and I did beat it, but it was just really hard, even with
so unfair.
infinite money.
What's
Yeah,
it
I mean,
called?
all those games were unfair.
Dragon's Lair was also like I felt like an impossible game to like. I don't know if you ever played that original Dragon's Lair game.
You basically have to memorize it. Yeah, I remember playing that.
The
before.
timing was like like a millisecond basically. If you're off, it's just like.
I don't know that one.
It's basically like a movie, and you have to like original QuickTime game maybe, almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
It was an arcade game.
it was
Yeah.
a Don Bluth animated. I think the same studio of those Don Bluth movies, like
Right.
Land Before Time, and
Yeah, animation was pretty
so
cool.
it,
Dark
it,
ones.
it looked like that same style.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Cool.
Um,
I mean, that sounds interesting. I'll take it out.
yeah, Dragon's Lair.
All right. Well, that was fun to talk
trip
about
down
these
memory
old-
lane.
Yeah. Well, these old arcade games had lots of good memories in the arcade when I was a kid. Oh, I did have $20 stolen from me by older kids. Like,
Did they
I don't know
like
how they
shake you
were.
They
upside
have,
down?
like, have a switchblade on you.
no, well, I was just there. I had my mom gave me a 20 to play arcade, which I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like I was fucking so stoked.
Oh man,
It was at like Malibu Castle, and I think she just wanted to like sit and read for like a few hours and not be bothered. So she's just like, just go play a game for a while. So, but I went to the machine to put in the 20. I was really excited, and like this dude, I was there with a friend too, and this dude was older. There was like 3 older guys. I was probably in middle school. They were definitely like late high school kids, and they were. One guy was just like, hey kid, I'll trade you, like, oh no, you know what it was, the machine wouldn't take my 20 for some reason. It like wasn't accepting it for some reason. It kept spitting it back out. So the guys came here like, hey, you know, like we have 2 5s and a 10. They had to spend like a few minutes gathering enough money to show that they had like enough money that they could give to me to switch so that I could use their bills instead of the 20, which wasn't working. So I said, yeah, okay. And then when I handed him the 20, he just like grabbed it and they literally just like ran away. That was it.
Okay.
oh man,
Yeah.
Sucker.
Yeah, but
Oh, man.
luckily I was super upset. Luckily we told the staff, and they're like, they tried to chase after him or some shit like that, but obviously nothing came of that. They just ended up giving us $20 worth of coins.
That's cool.
the local
nice of them.
street toughs.
People
Yeah.
people in California are nice, I guess. Wait a minute, they're not.
Well,
but kind of.
I mean, they steal from you, but
They both
staff
exist.
was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I'll never
man.
forget that.
I've never had anything like that happen to me. I was gonna say we should. I'm sure we all had the moment where we went to an arcade here in Japan and we're like, arcades, they exist again. When
Yeah,
we
right.
went around the time we came here, because that was I remember that being a big moment.
They're-
Because
Yeah,
We-
for sure.
by that point
But
they
they're
were kind
different,
of
though.
gone.
Yeah, I was gonna say we could talk about. It's so different. It's more of like a smoke-filled den of of
Oh, right. Like so
Japanese arcades. I'm talking about.
the weird thing about Japanese arcades is that there's like different floors, and like the first floor is always like the UFO catchers, and then if you go up like a few floors, you'll find like the smoke-filled den of like Street Fighter players,
Yeah.
and that's
Right.
like all they do at these cabinets. They just sit there, but it's very different. Like you're not sitting next to the person you're fighting against. It's like you have your own solo cabinet, and they're all hooked up to the other cabinets, and like so you don't know who you're playing against.
It's a very
But
good system.
It's really cool.
true.
It's really, really cool for sure. And like the quality of the screen and everything is like awesome. But it's just like if you go there and fight, if you try to like play a single game of Street Fighter, you're just instantly gonna get your ass handed to you.
The last few times I've been to a Japanese arcade game, though, they've been changing also. Like there's less like fighting games.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
The light gun games are mostly gone now.
Yeah, I'd say most of them are kind of like they're kind of turning the same direction. I mean, the UFO catchers and Purikira picture
They're
booths are
taking
still
over.
really popular, but yeah,
And there's
the
a lot of
fun
those
games are gone.
There's those like dome capsule like games that you get in and you like,
Gotcha.
no, like
Or
you
no?
play as like you're inside of a mech or something.
Oh yeah, yeah. Where
And
like
then
in a
there's
whole,
also-
like, thing.
And then there's those ones where people bring their card decks in and they have to like put them down on a panel and like
Yeah,
I've seen
like
that,
those
yeah.
really involved ones where you have to like
Nerds.
know what you're doing. There's still a lot of like what's the word, rhythm games, like lots of rhythm
Yeah.
games still, I think.
Yeah.
But
there's a
the
bunch
other
of
thing
those.
is that arcades here in the US we use quarters. Here they use 100 yen coins. So
Which
like
they've been doing since like the 80s. I think.
Yeah.
yeah. So everything costs like 4 times as much as on average.
Although I
For a
know that
single play.
in David Buster's, I think the prices have caught up and surpassed
Mm.
that now. Like what
Really?
they do
It's like
there
$1
now
per
is
game or something.
Well, yeah, you can't. I don't even think you can pay with coins anymore. You have to like charge up a card, and it's like real
They
money,
do
but
that shit.
more fun.
Apply for financing and get.
More fun. Yeah,
It's like Krusty
exactly.
dollars or Duff
Yeah.
beer dollars. Or whatever.
Yeah, that's too bad. That golden age of the arcade of when we were kids.
These
I
kids
guess
don't.
there was
These
the
kids
Soul
don't know about the
90s too.
pre-Dark Souls days. They don't know.
But today, what we're really talking about is this game called Darq, which is not an arcade game. It was originally a PC only game, but it has since also come out for basically every platform you could imagine. So you can get it anywhere. Came out in 2019, the original version, and then like a complete edition, which includes 2 DLC, came out in 2020 and 2021, depending on the platform. And it was also a free upgrade. So it was free DLC. So if you owned the original version, you got this DLC for free as well, which is nice. It was developed by a developer called Unfold Games, which is just a solo developer. I forget his name, but he was apparently like a professional composer or something like that, like a music composer or something.
Oh, that makes sense. The music.
Where
is
was
quite
he from?
good.
I don't know, but he definitely has a
Polish. It's a very European feel. I feel like.
The name.
Yeah,
It
his
was,
name is
I
Walad.
I couldn't pronounce it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it. Walad Marhulets, something like that.
Like Iceland or like Poland.
And like there wasn't too much interesting about the development. He just decided to. I mean, like a solo dev, he just decided to try his hand at game development, and found some people were interested in the game he was kind of working on, and gained a lot of support through this Steam Greenlight project, which I don't know if that's still a thing or not, but where you can like put your demo or something like on Steam and people can like vote for it. And then he did some crowdfunding. Apparently he got a bunch of offers as well from publishers, but he turned them down for the most part, eventually settling on Feardemic, which I guess is the publisher Feardemic, which is part of Bloober Games.
I didn't know that.
Supposedly. Yeah. But yeah, it did really well. I think I first heard about the game. The reason why I knew this game and the reason why I chose it is because I first heard about it on Reddit. The guy who made it posted something on Reddit, which got really a lot of traction, got a lot of headlines. I think he made a post about the fact that he had advertised the game to be released on the Steam store, and then after that, the Epic store approached him asking if they could make
with
an exclusive
like a
for
truckload
Epic.
of money.
And he turned them down. He said them no, and that just gives Reddit a massive boner, obviously, because they hate the Epic Store and they love Steam. So yeah, so apparently his like post became one of the most upvoted of all time on Reddit, which is pretty impressive. And I think that's where I found it originally. And it looked like a cool game. Like
why do people what is the reason that people praise that? Is that a separate subject?
That's a kind of a deep hole to jump into, the Epic Games versus
that
Steam
could be a sidebar episode.
That could be a whole sidebar, yeah. But so it did well as far as I know, and now he's making another game, which I saw like he's released some videos of it on Twitter. It looks like the same kind of art style, but the gameplay is very different, and it's like it looks way more complex, and it's like a first person hotel management game where you're a vampire, but then there's crafting and there's all this crazy stuff.
Are we sure this guy's name is not Vlad?
Could be Vlad.
Like my game. Yeah,
might be how you say this. Anyway, enough about the background behind this game. Let's talk about the game itself. I would like to know what your guys' overall impression was and around how long it took you to beat. So let's start with you, Dennis.
So I think I finished this game pretty quickly, like maybe like 2.5 hours. Like it was, I think I struggled the most at the beginning, like the very first level, but once I figured out the mechanics and how the game worked, like I breezed through it without any issues. That doesn't include the DLC. I played around with the DLC a little bit, but just the main core game. Um, I'm kind of, I don't know. I thought it was an okay game. Um, it didn't compel me to continue and do more of the DLC, if that speaks to the game at all. But I think I don't know it visually, and the art style and the sound design is excellent. I think all of that was like top tier, but the actual gameplay didn't really keep me that interested. I normally do like puzzle games, but I kind of it didn't really feel puzzly enough. It felt like the kind of puzzles that you would have in a game that has puzzles as part of its gameplay. You know, like you would do other actions or have a narrative, but there's very little narrative in this game. So having it just focus on these kind of like find key, bring key here, that kind of thing just kind of bored me a little after a little while. And the only thing I felt keeping me going was just checking out the environments and also the unique way that this game kind of manipulates, because all of the levels take place in a dream, so they kind of manipulate reality in different ways, like turning the levels upside down. All of that I thought was really cool and interesting. But still, the core puzzle element didn't really grip me very well. I don't know. I think it was okay.
All right. Yeah. Gotcha. How about you, Phil?
Man, I'm surprised. I guess I liked it more than you, which is rare. I think I liked it quite a bit. It took me, I don't really know, maybe like 2.5, 3 hours. I left it on a few times, so it says like 4.5 or 5. But yeah, I had no expectations going to this game, so I just kind of went in. I was like, all right, we'll get through this game. But I like the music. I like the art and stuff is interesting. It's kind of like out, it doesn't really make sense. But I kind of like how bizarre it was. It all is, and I like the atmosphere, and it was like the levels were not long too, so I kind of liked I never felt like it was slogging at all. So I was like, okay, like a couple times I did get a little stuck actually, but I never really felt like I was slogging through the game or anything like that. And then it ends, so overall it was like just enough. It almost feels like a demo, yeah. And it did well, he could do something bigger. So good for good for the developer. Overall, I have pretty good thoughts on it.
All right, cool. I'd say for myself, well, it took me like less than 2 hours to finish it, apparently, which I was surprised by. I was surprised by that. I did get stuck. I think same with Dennis. I got stuck on the first puzzle, but after that, it became kind of smooth for the most part. Didn't really have any like parts where I felt like I needed help, or I really needed to like rack my brain around it. I, like you both said, I really liked the environments, the sound design, the general aesthetic, and like art direction, I guess you could say. I thought it looked really cool. Like the game looked awesome. It kind of looked like a stop motion Tim Burton movie to me.
Yeah,
like Corpse Bride or something.
Corpse Bride, or that other one, Nightmare Before Christmas, or one of those. Yeah, so I thought it looked really cool, and it was done well. Like the animation was all really neat and very detailed. So I thought, looked great, sounded great. Really, that's what kind of really kept me being interested in it. I'm very similar to what Dennis said with the gameplay. I thought it had some unique puzzles, and the way that you play the game, where you like manipulate reality and how the puzzles work into that, was kind of cool sometimes. And I liked, the way they did it, but you're not looking at like humanity level type puzzles here. But it is a step above the puzzles that we got in Still Wakes the Deep. It wasn't like that simple, there were some parts where you have to like think about it and figure it out. So I mean, generally it was fun. It was very short, which is good for me. But I wasn't like, I love this game. I thought it was good, but not great. So I guess I'm kind of maybe like, yeah.
This is rare. This is a rare day, people.
Yeah, Phil's the most positive on it.
Yeah. All right. So why don't we jump into just a little bit of a deeper look into the gameplay and how it works? Dennis, could you take us into that? Or was that Phil? Or that was Dennis? Yeah, Dennis, please.
So this game is for the most part it's a 2D side scroller, but it does take place in 3D environments, kind of. And by that I mean there are ways that you can sometimes manipulate the world, or the environment, so that you can move onto a different path going into the background or something like that. Sometimes you can jump into the foreground or into the background. But for the most part, I would say it's a 2D side scroller. But you basically can just walk left and right or sneak left and right, and then you have a single like action button that you use to manipulate objects or pick things up. Basically, it's like environment based, whatever you have around you. Basically, you work your way from one part of the level to the other side, basically. Maybe not that direct at times, but basically just have to find your way out of the level, and that usually requires you to solve some kind of puzzle, like locating a key or a battery to power something. I would say that each level does introduce some kind of new mechanic. I'll just rattle off a few examples. Besides just like putting a key in a door, there are things like you have to connect wires with your hands to let electricity pass through to set off some kind of charge or power something. There's some of those puzzles where you need to like line up wires by rotating a room, or line up pipes or something similar to that to get something to connect and match up. There's like maze puzzles in one or two of the levels. There's also a few stealth, like sneaking parts in the game where you have to move around enemies. You don't have any way of attacking, so if you do come across any kind of a hostile character, then you basically just need to avoid them or die. It's pretty generous about like just starting you off in a nearby spot if you do, but yeah, it's not a combat game in any way. Yeah, and it's very, very linear though, in that, you start the level and then just go. There's not really like a tangible goal or anything. You just kind of got to make it to the other side or to the end of the level. Anything else? I guess I did mention that, yeah, you can manipulate the levels in some ways. Like there'll be a lever or a switch or something that you hang on that will sometimes rotate a room, or like I said, push you into the foreground or background. You can also walk up walls, which shift instead of actually walking up the wall, what it'll do is it'll shift the perspective.
Spoiler, man! It's a spoiler alert right there, man.
How's that?
No, I'm just saying that took me a while to figure out for some reason in the beginning, and I was like, "What the hell?" Like like you're saying, they're stuck in the very beginning, and I couldn't figure out what to do for like 10 minutes or something.
Yeah, I think that's,
they don't explain it.
Yeah. To the game's benefit, though. I think that I can't really think of any other games that have used this kind of. Maybe Fez had some kind of world manipulation things like that, but that where you actually have to think outside the box, in that you're manipulating reality and moving through a space in a way that you wouldn't normally be able to in a game. And but once you grasp that in the first level, then it kind of makes the subsequent levels easier, I think. So
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Phil, because it doesn't there's no like instructions in the game on how to play it at all. Like there's a little icon that'll show up when you can pick something up or put something into something. But other than that, like, because in order to walk onto the wall, you have to go up to the wall and then you have to press the A button. But there's no indication that you can do that.
Yeah,
you just have to like do it. And it put like that's how the game starts. It puts you in this room where there's nothing in there except for a wall. So you basically just have to experiment.
That
and, like,
was
go up to the wall and
interesting.
press A.
I restarted the game again because I thought I missed something, or that I thought there was maybe something I skipped through or missed, but no, there's nothing there. Like you said, you just start in a room and go. And
so I guess we were all kind of stuck in the beginning. Like I was like, yeah, what the hell is this? Yeah, and then you figured that out. Like, oh, okay.
And the thing is, the reason why I got stuck, because I figured that out. It didn't take me too long to like do that. I was like, oh, okay, this is cool, and you could like move up the wall. But then once that's not the first level though. That's just to get to the room or whatever. And then you go to sleep, and it takes you to the first level. But once I did that, like I forgot that I could walk up walls when I was in that first level, and that's like one of the things you have to do to progress. And I was just like, what the fuck do I do? Like I kept running around with these gears trying to figure out what the hell to do with them, and I forgot that I could like walk up.
I think you don't realize the same thing. I don't think you realize that's an actual mechanic. You just thought it was like, for me, I just thought it was like almost a cinematic thing. Like, okay, like I walked up a wall, and then you get out, and then you didn't realize you actually need to walk up walls like all the time for the rest of the game. So
yeah.
And there's some walls you can't
down
walk
walls.
Or walk down. And I mean, I liked the the puzzles are not, and it might have been one thing I liked about it, because it didn't really stop my momentum that much when I picked it up, and that's a reason why I stopped playing a lot of games. Like if I get stuck, I'll start a session and I'm like, like something happens, and I'm like, and I put it down. But I never really got like stuck too much. So, like, okay, I could do the next level, and I did the next level, and I was like, all right, this is going pretty smooth. Nothing too like brain, too intense on the puzzle front. But yeah, I can agree it could have been more like, or I would have liked if maybe the items were a bit more like, like you take them with you into the next stages. Like I liked how you can use something like the watch, and it becomes like a bridge, but you only did that once. But it would have been cool if you can use a watch as a bridge all the time, and like
that was an interesting element that wasn't used that often. Every now and then, you pick up an item, and then it
just has like a random function
in a weird,
like it turns into like a massive version of itself, which was kind of out of nowhere and surprising, but it was cool.
I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, oh, that's creative to use these items in a dream world. You can do these random things with it, I guess.
But my issue, I think, is that most of the friction I had in this game wasn't because a puzzle was difficult. It was because a puzzle was like frustrating or tedious. There was a few that felt that way.
The one where you put your hands on the
electric wire.
That was cool.
That one really. It was a cool like mechanic at first, but then it's timed and you have to like rush, and
if you mess it up, you have to do it all over again.
And the movement's a little clunky.
That took several tries, but I liked that did take me a while, and it took me, for some reason I did get stuck on a couple, like just I think the key thing later towards the end, and you have to like make a key and
like put it in different positions.
Yeah, I was trying to like unlock that actual device. I was like, oh, I gotta like do this device right or something, and I just kept, you know what I mean, messing with it for like 20 minutes, and I was like, whatever, I'm done with this game.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So it's hard to kind of figure out what you're supposed to do a couple times.
I think that's something that we kind of like, I think, talking about is like, there was kind of a lack of consistency between the levels, and like, I don't know, it felt like everything was kind of separate and not connected, and that was one of my probably larger complaints about the game. And it's not, and like I don't know, and it comes back to the story and whatnot, which isn't really a story, I don't know, but it just felt like everything is very, very separate and not connected. Like one example, in the first level, like one of the first enemies that you find are these like ladies that look like mannequins that have a lamp on their head, and when they turn on their lamp, it's like you can't get close to them because they'll like attack you and kill you. But if they turn it off, you can like sneak by them. And I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. And I thought they were going to appear throughout the game like that. I thought they were going to be used again in like several different ways, but you never see those characters again. Like and instead you just get different types of stealth enemies that you have to kind of figure out how to deal with, when I thought it would be cool to like integrate what you learned into like and add on to that rather than just using it once and then learning something different.
Yeah, when you encounter that stage, you instantly thought, oh, there's going to probably be a stage of like 5 of them in one room, and you need to like, you know what I mean? But that never happened. It was like a lot of one-offs. Almost every puzzle was like a one-off, but
yeah, exactly. That was my probably biggest complaint of the game. I think that lack of consistency, and also regarding this regarding the stealth gameplay, I didn't like it at all. I thought it was pretty bad. Basically you just have to hide in a hidey hole, wait for the person to walk by, and then hide
very
come back out.
slowly.
He's just a little wee boy in Iceland. What do you want him to do, man?
Lloyd? I don't know if he's a boy. I think he's a man.
I don't know what it is. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, like, you just have to wait in a hidey hole for like a minute,
or on the ceiling,
or whatever, for this slow thing to move by and then come drop down. And you know, God forbid if you mess up and he kills you or whatever, and it's an instant fail if he kills you, and then you have to like do it all over again. You just have to sit there and wait for this thing to walk by again. Yeah,
that's one of the friction points I was talking about, where just like, this is not hard, this is just annoying and frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. So the gameplay, there was a few things like that. I liked I mean, you know, as soon as I got used to it, the walking up the walls stuff, I thought was cool. Like the bending reality stuff was probably my favorite part of the puzzles, like spinning a room. I was gonna say, match the wires and things like
they were unique. I thought it was unique. Like, I felt fresh. Like, I was like, oh, this is cool. I mean, I haven't played Fez, but like, I haven't played, like, I like when a game makes me think I would like to see this game on a bigger scale kind of thing. I would like if this is like a bigger scale type of game that was more fleshed out, but I like the like ideas in it, I guess.
You should play Fez, because Fez is kind of like that. It's better. Okay. To be honest. It's very different aesthetic. It's very bright and sort of like the Taxi Goes Room type of aesthetic. It's very bright.
Much more colorful, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the gameplay was simple, but there was just frustrating parts to it, and I wish it had been more consistent.
Last stage was a bit, whatever.
Oh, the last stage where it's like the last stage turns into like a chase sequence.
You just walk a lot.
When you have to run, like I did get stuck on that part, because there's one part where you have to like run. And like, I don't know how you would ever not do this correctly the first time. You have to kick down a thing, and then like the roof will start falling down.
I think it's impossible to do that correctly. That was a very Dragon's Lair-esque. Like,
right, you have to fail it.
Yeah, you basically have to memorize what you're supposed to do, but the only way you would know is if you've played it. So you have to go through it and die, and then know, okay, don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. But that wasn't my biggest problem. It was when I ran back and the wall falls down behind you, and then there's like suddenly enemies have guns and they start shooting at you, which is really bizarre. But I completely forgot that I could like walk up the wall that had just fallen down, because it was a part of the ceiling fell down and you're supposed to walk up. I completely forgot I could do that, and I kept like trying to figure out, how do I get past this person? And they kept killing me. I did that. Like,
you actually got shot? I was thinking for a second, did they actually hit you? Like,
I never got shot.
Oh wow, really? No,
I thought that they
thought it was just for show or something.
Stopped,
yeah,
no, because like it took me like it didn't compute in my head at all that I could go back against the wall and walk up it. So I was just like trying to get closer to the person. And after 3 shots, they miss you like 3 times, but the 4th one will always hit.
Okay.
And I did that like 5 times before I realized, oh shit, I forgot I can walk up the wall that fell down. So that was, but that was my fault. I felt really stupid after that. But yeah, that level was a bit weird. So you're just like running. It's kind of, just being chased.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any other. I mean, each level, like I said, they do introduce like a new mechanic in almost every level. So there are a lot of different types of puzzles, but most of them are all pretty like simple. And I think a lot of, aside from the like level manipulation stuff, there's a lot of stuff you've seen before, I think, in other games.
All right. Well, then maybe we can jump into the puzzle design, which is kind of you kind of already talked. I'm not sure how much there's to talk about for the puzzle design, but as you said, like every level has different puzzles. They range from lots of different things, but they mostly have to do with how you interact with the environment. You usually have to pick up something, bring it somewhere else, and then like interact with the environment. Put an object into something else, activate it, turn on the lights, and then like turn a thing to make a room spin, and it'll like line up something else. So it's all these different moving parts. It's pretty cool. My favorite parts were definitely like when you were manipulating the world around you to figure out how to make it work. Like especially like I think it was the second level where you're in like the street, and this is the only time they did this, which I was kind of disappointed by, but just another consistency problem where you can jump up and like actually turn the world like left and right rather than up and down.
Yeah.
Like
right.
usually
like
when you walk up a
rotates
wall,
around like an axis kind of.
Yeah, like around you, and you can change the path that you're walking on. And it means you can even walk back the same path that you came on, but walk it looking from the other angle, like the other side. Which could gives you access to more different items and things like that.
Just
and
when you
really
think
cool.
of that from in general, that concept of take any 2D side-scrolling game you've ever played, you've got one side of the character is the background, and the other side of the character is you, the player, looking at the character. But this gives you the chance to see the other side, which you never see in a 2D side scroller, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's something that Fez, I think, does too, if I remember correctly. It's sort of like that.
Fez had something like that.
It like rotates the world. But yeah, no, I thought that was really cool. And it allowed you to walk down like other paths. It wasn't just that. It wasn't just like
but things would like happen. Like what I liked about that is like, okay, like you do that and then the trash can would fall down, so you can't move or
block one
like
of the pathways.
Things would like move in the world too because of what you did to it. So I kind of did like that.
It's not like the world just stays completely static as you move it.
Yeah.
It's the world actually like reacts to being moved. Like things will fall over and shake and things like that. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I liked it.
But yeah, I guess in general the puzzles are not like, well, yeah, nothing to compare to. Of course, Humanity, I guess, on the puzzle front is like a full-on puzzle game.
Like
That's
break your brain puzzle.
Yeah.
Classic puzzle game.
So,
this is more just like adventure puzzle game.
Yeah.
And in some ways, some of the puzzles reminded me of like the kind of thing you would have in like almost like a point and click adventure game. Like I don't know, like a Monkey Island or something, where maybe not quite that simple, but without it having any kind of other gameplay or narrative to go along with it, just distilled down to those puzzles.
Yeah. I think the puzzles and the world bending are like the two main parts of this game, gameplay wise.
I think they're at their best when they involve the world manipulation stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's by far the best part when they combine the two things.
Environmentally, the levels do take place in different areas, I guess. Like you said, the second level was a street.
Yeah, every level is a different, I guess, theme.
Or like a little
One's
town.
A train.
I forget what the
train.
Yeah, there's a concert hall, the train, the street.
The concert hall or the theater, and then there's like
station.
a cave level.
Yeah.
Cave.
Did you not encounter a few puzzles that were like, there was like, for example, the one with the person coming after you, and it's almost timed, and it's like you keep looking back, you know?
It was that maze puzzle, I remember.
I died on that several times. You have to like memorize. That was really annoying. I was like,
One of my favorite. Okay, I forgot about this, but there was one that I really wanted to highlight because I thought it was really cool. There was one, it's not, I don't think it's the one you're talking about. I think it's the train one where there's like, I can't remember, but there's a point where you have to move a ball through a maze, like by turning.
So that's what we're talking about.
Oh, that is
no. Wait. No, there's
you turn
two
the
of
maze.
those. There's two
Okay,
types
hold
of
on.
those.
Okay,
So
okay.
wait, hold on. The one I'm talking about is you have to turn this like circular maze and move a ball through it. But while you're doing that, there's some lady in a wheelchair
Yeah.
that's creeping towards you very slowly.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
and you
about.
can hear that, while you're doing it, the camera starts to spin around, and like it shows the lady, but you can't see you doing the puzzle, but you can still control you doing the puzzle.
Yeah,
but
so you have
can't
to
see
kind of
doing
like
it.
memorize.
So you have to remember it,
Yeah.
and then the camera will come back around and it keeps moving around, so you can see yourself again for a little bit. And then every time she's getting closer and closer. I thought that was really awesome. I thought that was super cool.
Well,
I
it was
thought it
cool,
was
but it
a-
was frustrating.
It was
I like that
cool,
one a
but
lot.
it was also, hard to do.
Yeah.
I
But
actually got it on my first try.
I cheated. Because if you pause the game
Oh,
every time,
memorize it.
like every time it shows on the
Listeners,
maze,
don't do this. Don't do it.
You can pause the game, and then like it gives you like a second to like get your bearings and see like, oh, okay, I need to rotate it this way and move it this way. Then I would unpause it, do the action, and then when it came back around, pause it again, get my bearings, see where I'm at. That way I'm not scrambling every time I'm doing the action.
Because I was still moving. I was still solving it while the camera wasn't on me.
I felt like
Yes.
I felt like you had to do that. That's what I was
Yeah,
saying. I was
you
like,
have
oh, shit,
to-
you pretty much have to.
I don't
move
think
it.
there's enough time if you don't.
Yeah.
So, but that I would take that opportunity to kind of like memorize my moves ahead of time
Yeah.
for when I'm not going to be able to see the
So it's
maze.
like, so that, and there were a couple other puzzles for me personally. I didn't know how I solved them. I was just like, what is this? And I just like moved forward or moved back. And then I was like, oh, I solved it. I was like, I don't really know what I was like doing though, but it worked. So
That's I do feel like you could kind of brute force your way through a lot of the puzzles just by like trial and error and just mash at them and see what fits, and then eventually you'll get it without having to really think.
yeah. Yeah. Like there was the one on the street. I think the same one, the street level, where you had to turn the street around. And I think it's like there's like 5 things on the floor, and it was like
The locks.
yeah, like the locks. And I was like, I didn't really get what I was doing, but
that one
I got that
I
by
beat
accident.
first.
I think.
Yeah, I was just like,
walking
okay,
around
and,
then,
it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't we jump into the vibe and the story of this game?
So
to introduce this film.
yeah, the vibe is like, it's kind of like made me think of like, this is Freddy Krueger's like adolescence and before like everything went
can see
wrong, and there was just something like, I don't know.
I like that theory.
This is what I was like thinking about. Yeah, his grandmother like died in an accident, and you're haunted by
Have you seen Freddy's Dead?
No, I don't think
It's
I've seen that one.
I think that's the 6th movie.
Oh no, not that far yet.
They show a
His childhood
version
so-
of Freddy Krueger in that.
Oh nice.
Yeah, you got the dreams and stuff, and this is like pre-murderous Freddy. You know,
he is the result of rape, though, like prison rape.
wait.
That's
We're talking
the
about Freddy,
fifth
or we're
movie?
talking about the character in the game?
Freddy
Okay.
Krueger is as a child who was born from a woman who was raped like 100 times.
nun,
in a prison.
right?
A nun who was raped.
Yeah.
Like,
Do you
by
really
prisoners.
want to go not Roe v. Wade? You know,
Son of a 100 maniac.
you know, let pro-choice. That's all I got to say. Anyway, because that's what happens. You get demon ghost babies that haunt you in your
Freddy
dreams.
Krueger,
Yeah. And so yeah, it's kind of like mild. It could have kicked up the horror elements more, but mild horror elements, I guess. And
yeah,
like a ghost is like a ghost of your
but it's like
brother.
Tim Burton horror.
It's not really scary, but you still have like severed body parts and stuff like that.
Yeah, there was a little bit of I got some almost like Silent Hill vibes from like those lamp ladies.
Yeah.
There's a
I
couple
guess
of
there are some
weird
scary
looking
things. Oh, and like
creatures.
the
The
ladies
wheelchair
and
lady.
Yeah, the wheelchair lady is kind of scary,
You got
creepy.
trumpet body.
The trumpet one was
dude.
funny.
Yeah.
That guy was
So
the most
annoying.
egregious of all of
Yeah.
the stealth sections.
And you had to go
'cause he's so
so
slow.
And you have to keep going back. You have to go back to that
Yeah,
to
I
change the
hated that
puzzle
guy.
shape. I hated that whole part. Yeah, that sucked.
But I mean, I really liked the music actually. So it's interesting when you said the guy might have been a composer or something like that, because like I could tell the music felt like better than what this game should have had or something. I was like, oh, this is like really like I left the game on a couple times, and it was like the music was like, oh, you can just listen to it for like a while.
Nice. Yeah, the music, the sound design, I thought was generally very good.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the vibe, and that's like the story. Yeah, like I said, I imagined he has like maybe his family or something died, and because you see a lot of these dead baby, same baby, I think.
You're chasing like some child the whole time.
Yeah, but the kid has like a paper bag on his head or something.
Yeah. So there's no explanation. There might have been maybe some subtle lore about it helped, some sort of like hints about what was going on, because they never explain. At least I never felt like I got an explanation for anything.
Every level begins and ends with you back in a house. I'm assuming it's his house, but it looks like dilapidated and just worn. And
I was wondering why that was. Like, why do they keep bringing you back to the bedroom when every time you get back, you just sit down in the bed again and go to the next level?
Yeah, you lay down in the bed, and then your body rises out almost like the astral plane or something,
right?
Or your soul rises out. But it's so vague. Everything about the story in this game is so open to interpretation. Even the fact that we said we know his name is Lloyd only from reading like other material. There's nothing in the game that tells you that.
Apparently there was a lot of cut content, like, and gameplay mechanics as well. Like, there was supposed to be a flashlight and darkness, and like you have to stay lit. And then there was a bunch of other. Apparently there was a lot of stuff that was like promised in the crowdfunding that wasn't in the final game.
I did read, and I think you guys may have found some of them, but there are like secret pages or documents that you can find in levels. I never found any. Didn't know they existed until after I beat the game and I read something about it.
Can you read those though?
I don't know. I was going to ask if the one you found, you were able to do anything with it.
No. It just said you collected. I collected it. I didn't. Oh, you know what was kind of funny? This is just a side note, but when I first started playing the game and you pick up an item and then you try to use the item, like those gears, it shows this massive wheel of spots of like items,
of like 20 spots. Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, oh shit, like, am I gonna have this many items sometime? But by then, like, you get to the end of the game and you've only ever had like 3 maximum.
Yeah, the classic strange, like item wheel that you have in lots of games that usually ends up filled up with magic spells or items by the end of the game. Yeah,
but it was never like that. You hold like 3 items max, and for some reason they made this massive wheel that most 90% of the time, 90% of it is empty the entire game.
Yeah, it stands out even more because I feel like the way to navigate around the wheel is like unintuitive. Like you have to go the opposite direction. I think for me, I felt like you have to press like right to go up, to go down, or something. It's like the opposite of what I thought it was, and then so it made that whole wheel thing stand out a lot more. It's like, damn it, gotta get up.
Very weird wheel. I don't know why they did it like that. Anyway,
but yeah, that's basically the vibe, though. We just talked about the vibe. The vibe.
Yeah, it's creepy. It kind of looks like stop motion claymation stuff. It's the super detailed environments that I thought they looked really cool. Really
it's still kind of a chill game, though. I'll say, like in a way, it's kind of chill.
I wouldn't call it scary. I guess there's kind of like some jump scares.
Spooky might be a good word. It's a little spooky and. There's no like persistent monsters or anything like that. So like you can just leave it in one spot if you're just like standing still, if you're not next to a enemy or whatever. But
there was one thing about the sound that annoyed me. Actually, I don't know if you guys had the same experience. Maybe it's just my earphones or something. But there's a lot of really like especially in the final level. But every time you like walk up a wall as well, there's just like a really loud, large, heavy bass noise, like really low hertz, like really, really deep, but it felt like it was blown out. Like it felt like it was way too heavy, big. Like it's it didn't sound good to me but maybe it's just my earphones.
I think I didn't play with earphones at all with this game, and I probably had it pretty low volume most of the time because I played it late at night and usually in the living room or on Steam Deck.
Yeah, I played on Steam Deck.
Your speakers are not in the right range to really capture what is.
Could have been.
He's a composer. I think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Apparently.
So.
Yeah.
I did say there's one thing I didn't like, and that's that you can't save. Not like any of the levels are that long. Like maybe 20 minutes max. I mean, 20 minutes or something like that. 30 minutes max. But like a couple times I did stop. I didn't know if you could save or not, and I stopped the mid like stage, and then I thought I could come back, and then you start over again. So I was like, damn. So
Yeah,
that's probably like my main gripe. I wish you could have just at least picked up where you left off if you left the game.
A game that this reminded me of a lot, even though they play very differently, but Limbo.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that.
It looks like it. Yeah.
Limbo
this game
is
very similar to Limbo and Inside.
Limbo is like how I wanted this game to be, not gameplay wise, but in just cohesiveness and the way it's structured,
and how it
in
builds
that, like,
on.
That's another game that starts you out with like no background, and you just like laying on the ground, and you just get up and go, and but it's designed in a, I don't know, it's just designed in a better way that kind of just makes things flow.
There was more of a, I think they had more of a vision in that game of like the beginning, middle, end, and all that. Well, it feels so disjointed in this game.
It's still Limbo is still a game that you can interpret how you'd like, but there is some kind of a through line through the narrative there that you can follow. Whereas, like you said, here it's very separated, and there is, like, for example, the old lady in the wheelchair. She appears a few times and is the like kind of the final boss. So I guess you could interpret it as maybe she's some force in his life, or someone who's died, or I don't know, like he's having nightmares about the death of his grandma or something. Who knows?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine to have it open to interpretation, but I do, like just like you said, just wish it had some kind of like beginning, middle, end feeling to it, where it really doesn't have that.
Right. Like so with Limbo, you're driven to continue on the journey and reach that end goal and learn more, whatever it is, whatever little grains of story they have to give you, even if it is, very vague. But here, I never felt that at all. Like, nothing compelled me to narratively to continue.
They could have done something really simple, like between the stages, the beginning of the stages, like before you go to sleep, like maybe just have like a sentence, like, one
could have been
one vague line.
Yeah,
would have made a big difference.
I don't think it wouldn't have been very difficult to have added a little bit of motivation like that, a little bit of intrigue.
And that, that I did jump into the DLC a little bit, but it doesn't add anything like that. It's just completely new environments. It doesn't really add any, and I don't feel like the puzzle gameplay is enough.
Even Humanity had like more study, like intrigue.
True, yeah, it did
with the story,
which it didn't need. For the kind of puzzle game it was, you wouldn't need it. It would be like giving Tetris a
how
story.
else are you going to save humanity, man? You got to Shiba Inu.
So how about we jump into final thoughts? Do you think it's a bite-sized game? Would you recommend it? Let's start with you, Phil.
This is definitely a bite-sized game. Beat it in 2 to 3 hours. I don't know how much I paid for it. I had to bring money up, but I felt like I think I got it on sale. But I enjoyed it for what it was. If it was much longer, I would probably would have been a bit fatigued of the game. But for like a 2 to 3 hour game, it felt like a nice little experience, and with some interesting concepts to play with. And I probably won't be back to it, but I enjoyed playing it for a couple hours. So yeah.
All right. How about you, Dennis?
Definitely fits the bite-sized game criteria. I think, I was also under 3 hours there, so that's nothing. That's easily beaten. And I don't know if I'd recommend it necessarily, unless I think you'd have to be interested in this kind of like vibe. If that kind of like spooky Tim Burton-esque look and feel is something that draws you, then that might help your enjoyment levels. But I still feel like this is more of like I saw the game as more of like a proof of concept, or like a kind of like a tech demo for what this developer could do in the future with some cool core ideas that I'd like to see carried forward in a future game. As it is, I don't feel like it satisfied me, and completing it didn't feel like I completed anything. It just kind of like I just did the thing, and then it was done.
Gotcha.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say only recommend if that kind of aesthetic appeals to you. And but again, it can be completed pretty quickly. So and you may already have it. I had this game for free from the Epic Game Store.
It was on Epic for free, when it first joined.
I don't know when, but it was a long time ago, and it was sitting in my library. So for free, I wouldn't say that I had a negative experience with it. So
yeah, I'm the same as you. It's definitely a bite-sized game. You could finish in one sitting. It's a little bit. It's cool. It's unique and cool in its vibe and the kind of like world's manipulating mechanics, but the rest of it is kind of disappointing, not super satisfying. But if you just looking for something to like pick up and play quickly, this would be, and you just want to complete it just to complete it, then you could easily do that with this game. That would kind of be my only recommendation. If you're looking really for something good to play, I wouldn't really recommend this game. So yeah, I guess that's about it.
It's 1 bite out of 3.
Yeah,
we should come up with a bite scale.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell a lot of love and care put into the visuals and the sound, so that is like really, really high ranking. But yeah, the actual game, a part of this game, was not very good, or not that good. A little disappointing. Needed a little bit more to it. A little more. Need a little spice. A little more ingredients need to be thrown in there or something.
I feel like the two most important things to
cooking time or something.
Like the two most important things to keep me interested in a game, either the narrative or the gameplay. Hopefully both, but it doesn't have to have both. And I feel like this game definitely had almost zero narrative, and the gameplay was not strong enough for me overall.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, basically no narrative.
I could see
directly, at least.
I could agree, but I still. Yeah,
no, Phil, you're wrong.
Take
We're
a
right.
nibble.
So
Take a nibble, man. Just take a nibble. Take a nibble.
All right. No, fair enough. It's still better than Children of the Sun, I think, in terms of like first gameplay experience. But that's not saying much. I'm just saying it's not the worst game we've played.
Poor Children of the Sun's getting thrown under the bus like every episode now.
Until a new game comes to set the bar, I guess.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Bite-Sized Games. It was a joy to have you along on this journey talking about Darq. You can find us on any of the social medias at bitesizegames_. That's on X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. You can also email us at bitesizegames.info@gmail.com. Our next game is going to be Thank Goodness You're Here, which I don't know anything about, so looking forward to playing that. I'm excited. And you should look forward to it too. So no thanks for listening. We love you very much. And remember, no matter how brief every jamming moment, no matter how brief every gaming moment is a chance for greatness.